History of Visual Arts, Modernism and the 20th Century. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw wide-scale and far-reaching changes in Western society. The development of modern industrial societies and the rapid growth of cities. There was violent conflict. First World War, the Russian Revolution. Einstein published his theories of relativity, and Freud developed psychoanalysis in the 1890s and the interpretation of dreams in the 1900s. What we now call the modern movement exploded across Europe. Artists from many countries took up this new approach. Photography could now record scenes accurately, so artists felt it was their duty to seek for the truth in a particular scene, to paint what was going on underneath, emotionally or subconsciously. Artists of the modern movement no longer tried to hide the work of the artist's hand and drew the audience's attention to the surface of the painting and its constituent materials or the construction methods of a sculpture. The artist's working methods also started to become part of the work itself. The process of the making of the artwork became integrated into the meaning of the finished work. Cubism was an early 20th century avant-garde art movement pioneered by Georges Braque and Pablo Picasso and was produced in Paris during the 1910s and extending through the 1920s. Cubism has been considered the most influential art movement of the 20th century, even though it was explored and produced in quite different ways by different artists and produced no agreed manifesto. A primary influence that led to the development of Cubism was the representation of three-dimensional form in the late works of Paul Cézanne, which were displayed in a retrospective at the 1907 Salon d'Automne. In Cubist artwork, objects are analysed, broken up, and reassembled in an abstracted form. Instead of depicting objects from one viewpoint, the artist depicts the subject from a multitude of viewpoints to represent the experience of observing the subject, rather than a simple representation. Futurism was founded in Milan in 1909 by the Italian poet Filippo Tommaso Marinetti. He was soon joined by the painters Umberto Boccioni, Carlo Carrà, Giacomo Balla, Gino Severini and the composer Luigi Russolo. It emphasized and glorified themes associated with contemporary concepts of the future, including speed, technology, youth and violence, and objects such as the car, the aeroplane, and the industrial city. The future is practiced in every medium of art, including painting, sculpture, ceramics, graphic design, industrial design, interior design, urban design, theatre, film, fashion, textiles, literature, music, architecture, and even cooking. Marinetti and the Futurists hated everything old, especially political and artistic traditions. "We want no part of it, the past," he wrote. "We, the young and strong Futurists." The Futurists admired speed, technology, youth, and violence, the car, the aeroplane, and the industrial city. All that represented the technological triumph of humanity over nature, and they were passionate nationalists. Constructivism was an artistic and architectural philosophy that originated in Russia, beginning in 1919. A rejection of the idea of autonomous art. The movement was in favour of art as a practice for social purposes. Constructivism had a great effect on modern art movements of the 20th century, influencing major trends such as the Bauhaus and Die Stijl movements. The term construction art was first used as a derisive term by Kazimir Malevich. to describe the work of Alexander Rodchenko in 1917. Constructivism first appears as a positive term in Noam Garbo's Realistic Manifesto of 1920. Alexei Gan used the word as the title of his book, Constructivism, printed in 1922. Initially, the constructivists worked on three-dimensional constructions as a means of participating in industry. Later, that definition would be extended to designs for two-dimensional works such as books or posters. Vorticism was a short-lived modernist movement in British art and poetry of the early 20th century. Based in London, but international in makeup and ambition. The movement was announced in 1914 in the first issue of Blast, which contained its manifesto and the movement's rejection of landscape and nudes in favour of a geometric style tending towards abstraction. The Vorticism group began with the Rebel Art Centre, which Wyndham Lewis and others established after disagreeing with the Omega Workshop founder Roger Fry, and has roots in the Bloomsbury group, Cubism and Futurism, and although the style grew out of Cubism, it is more closely related to Futurism in its embrace of dynamism, the machine age, and all things modern. The name Vorticism was given to the movement by Ezra Pound in 1913, although Lewis, usually seen as the central figure in the movement, had been producing paintings in the same style for a year or so previously. Ultimately, it was their witnessing of unfolding human disaster in the First World War that drained these artists of their vorticist zeal. De Stijl, also known as Neoplasticism, was a Dutch artistic movement founded in 1917 in Amsterdam and consisted of artists and architects. De Stijl is also the name of a journal that was published by the Dutch painter, designer, writer and critic Theo van Doesburg that served to propagate the group's theories. Proponents of De Stijl advocated pure abstraction and universality by reduction to the essentials of form and colour. They simplified visual compositions to the vertical and horizontal directions, and used only primary colours along with black and white. Indeed, Mondrian himself sets forth these delimitations in his essay Neoplasticism in Pictorial Art. He writes, "This new plastic idea will ignore the particulars of appearance, that is to say, natural form and colour. On the contrary, it should find its expression in the abstraction of form and colour, that is to say, in the straight line and the clearly defined primary colour." Now, we have been looking at a very brief introduction to the emergence of modernism in the early part of the 20th century. We can see that, although there were many superficial similarities shared between the work produced in different countries, the application of the concepts and later development was quite different. Please take time to answer the questions on the page, and I'll see you in class. Bye.